어디로 가야 돼?
손이죠? 여기 안에도 뭐 있어?
리셉션 샵 이쪽으로
샵
여기
먼저
가야 돼.
가볼까?
리셉션.
여기서 사간 것 같아 아까 애들.
어디가?
식초향? 오크통 냄새 나는데?
식초 냄새.
나무 냄새.
We are the oldest balsamic vinegar producer in Modena and actually in the world. The Giusti family started back in year 1605. And at the very beginning, they used to follow local traditions because in Modena in the past, the majority of the families had their own barrels full of balsamic vinegar in the attic of the house just for private use. We were the first ones who recognized the potential that vinegar had. And we started to promote it and export it worldwide, thanks to Giuseppe Giusti, so the man you see behind me in the portrait. Who is Giuseppe Giusti? He's not actually the founder of our company, but he was the one who wrote one of the first documents related to balsamic vinegar back in 1863. So before these years, imagined like a sort of tradition, art, handed down orally from one generation to the other. In our case, with Claudio, so our CEO, we have reached the 17th generation of the family, still running the company. So in this recipe, he mentions just 3 ingredients to have the traditional balsamic, so grapes, barrels, thyme, and no additives, no colorants, no caramel, just these 3 ingredients. And of course, the quality of the grapes, the different woods, and the aging years make the difference. Before we start, I would like to make a quick distinction because we offer 2 varieties of balsamic. These are 2 European certifications indicating the quality of the product. They certify authenticity. On the one hand, balsamic vinegar DOP, and on the other hand, balsamic vinegar IGP. So DOP stands for Protected Designation of Origin, and it's the traditional one. So we just have 1 ingredient, which is cooked grape juice. And it's not even a dressing. Imagine like a sort of topping, like a few drops to enrich special meals, like desserts, meat, pasta. It's not the one you probably use every day in your salad, because it's quite intense, and this DOP. On the other side, we have IGP, which stands for Protected Geographical Indication. 2 ingredients in this case. Grape juice, again, but also wine vinegar. Let's start, we have 10 thematic rooms, so let's start with the first one, which is the room of the raw materials. So let's start with the production process. We get rid of the seeds, the skins, and we will obtain our pure grape juice. In the case of balsamic vinegar, we will cook it immediately because we want to block spontaneous fermentation, alcoholic fermentation. And we cook it at 80-90 degrees Celsius, so under 100, because it doesn't have to boil, but just to slowly evaporate for around 20 hours. Then what happens? Sugar caramelizes, so everything gets thicker, sweeter. And let me show you an example of what we get, which is this jar. This is the so-called the saba, or sapa. Yeah, or also cooked grape must. And as you see, after the cooking process, it gets, first of all, thicker as a melassa, as a syrup, darker. I know that it's commonly called the black gold, but as you see, it's not actually black. It's more like caramel color. The specific color of balsamic vinegar should be something between a dark brown with a few ruby red nuances, as here. And super sweet. You can use it every day as a sweetener instead of honey, maple syrup, marmalade on pancakes, waffles. And this is our starting point. Next 2 steps. fermentation and aging process. In terms of fermentation, we're talking about a double fermentation. So sugar particles from the grapes will turn into alcohol acid, and then from alcohol to vinegar acid, thanks to the so-called acetobacter, so bacteria in air and outside the cask. And after a couple of years of fermentation, we will use our saba, which is already young vinegar, to refill barrels, wooden barrels. Let's make a quick distinction, because since we offer both a DOP and IGP as balsamic vinegars, the difference in terms of aging process is that IGP ages in single barrels. Super easy. 2 ingredients inside and wait several years. DOP instead ages in a batch. What is a batch? Over there you find the example of a batch. So a batch is a group, a family of 5 barrels together, 6, 7, sometimes even 10 barrels made of different woods, from the biggest to the smallest. And this is an example of a new batch. We still see the woods on the color. It's probably the only example of a new batch that you will see here, because they're usually quite old. We have barrels from the 18th century, 19th century, and of course with the time they get darker, because they get dirty, they start leaking, they absorb color of the vinegar inside, but in this case we still see the woods. And which woods do we use? Rovere, which means oak, then juniper, chestnut, cherry, mulberry, acacia sometimes too, not always in the same order, every company decides. In our case, the biggest ones are usually composed by woods that facilitate acidification, such as mulberry, which is quite porous and air can pass well inside. And the smaller ones are the most aromatic ones, like juniper, which is probably the most aromatic wood ever. At the beginning they're full, 80% full, they're never 100% full. During the summer, a percentage of vinegar will evaporate. Natural evaporation. We need this evaporation because year by year it will get thicker, sweeter, more structured, and this in summer. What do we do in winter then? In winter, which is considered as the sleeping season, so January, February, we transfer it from one barrel to the other. And by doing so, it will acquire the notes from all the different woods. We usually start with the smallest one. Here, let's say we have 10% of vinegar missing, because in summer it has evaporated. We'll extract from the second one and we'll transfer it here. Then here we will have 20% missing, evaporated, already given here. We will extract from this third one and we will transfer to the second. And then it's like a chain reaction. So number 4 will refill number 3, number 5 will refill number 4, and number 5 will then be refilled with new cooked grape juice, which is fermenting in the meantime. And now, third ingredient of Giuseppe's recipe, thyme. We offer 2 varieties of DOP balsamic. The youngest of the 2 is called affinato, aged minimum 12 years. And the oldest one, extra vecchio, so extra old in English, minimum 25 years. After minimum 12 or minimum 25 years of transferring every year, we will extract a few samples from the smallest cask. And here we have the one ready, the one we're gonna sell. We will give them to the Consorio, which is in Spilamberto, small town near Modena, and it's 5 experts. They will do, first of all, a blind test. They don't know where these samples come from to avoid favouritisms, so we use codes. And the test is organoleptic, so they will check color, taste, smell, texture, and if everything is okay, it will be certified as DOP. With the logo, red and yellow logo, the number of the seal, of course, because every bottle is numbered by the Consorio and bottled by the Consorio. They bottle it, then they give us back the bottles and we just stamp our final labels with Giuseppe, Giusti, blah 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 written. In addition, since the Consorio is in charge of bottling the DOP for every producer, of course every bottle of every producer will always have the same shape, which is the shape of a small ampoule, 100 ml, designed back in 1987 by Giugiaro, famous car designer. He worked for Maserati, Fiat, and also for Balsam and Vinegar Consortium. He designed models, sort of, yeah. Any questions so far?
So what is the maximum years?
Maximum. There's not a maximum because it might, here inside we might have a 2% aged 80 years, 1% aged 45. It depends on when we start the batches. There's not a maximum since the barrels were studied also in the 17th century, 18th century. It's hard to define the years. Perfect. So let's move on. In this room, you can take a look at this video. The vinegar master is the person in charge of deciding how much vinegar to transfer. He takes care of the barrels. Two details are to be noticed in this video, I would say. First detail, he's in the attic of the house. Balsamic vinegar is not like wine, which needs constant temperature. We need jumping temperatures, changes of temperature. So, rooftop, not insulated, and it will be super hot in summer and cold in winter. And this helps our products, because we said we need evaporation in summer, but also the sleeping season in winter. So the attic is the perfect place for the batches. Second detail, this pipette, made of glass. We call it ladra. Yeah, thief in English, because it's like stealing vinegar from the barrels. And it was used in the past to transfer as a straw. So he inhales, he blocks the hole with his finger. Of course, everything is checked, and if it's ready, it will be transferred into the next one, like that. Now you understand why it's commonly called the black gold, because production, of course, is limited and done manually even today for DOP. Consider the DOP will be around like 2% of our total production. That's why we can still do it by hand. IGP is something completely different. For IGP, we also have barrels with more than 5,000 liters, 6,000 liters, and in that case, we use tubes and machines to extract it. This is the traditional method of DOP. Okay, so in this room is called the gift, and you can smell, I let you smell, an example of crystallized balsamic vinegar. Smell is still intense. It smells like licorice to me. I would say keep the smell in your mind because it will be the same that you might recognize when you will taste DOP later. Same nose. Yeah. And you understand that this is an immortal product. It lasts forever, it doesn't expire, and after so many years the smell is still intense. Because once out of the barrels, the aging process stops. So taste and smell never change. Texture, of course, might change depending on temperature, humidity. Because balsamic vinegar is not just a dressing that you might use, of course, every day in your salad, but balsamic vinegar has also a background, historical background. For example, consider that in the past, whenever a new baby was born, the family started a new batch for him. There was like this parallelism. So the baby grows up, balsamic vinegar ages in the meantime. They kind of go together. The barrels were also considered as the dowries when the daughters got married. That's why we collected these photos. Inheritance for the family, gift for friends, dowry in a marriage, gift for birth. Always with the idea of giving something to the future generations. And still today we have this tradition. I mean, I don't have barrels at home, but a few friends of mine still today have their own barrels in the attic and extract maybe once a year on Christmas Day, and they use it as a private reserve with their family at lunch. Still today. Okay, so let's move upstairs. Okay, this is the room of the centuries, and you find a reason why we usually say that we were born in year 1605, because of the census. This was an old census issued at the beginning of the 1600 to collect taxes from commercial activities. And in those years, you find a few members of the Giusti family, which are Francesco Giusti and Giovanni Maria Giusti. We read their names not because they were balsamic vinegar producers, but because they were butchers. I don't know if you've ever been to Modena city center, but even today you find the old store once owned by them, still named after them, Premiata Salumeria Giuseppe Giusti. And in the beginning they had their own batches in the attic, again for private use. Then they decided to focus on the balsamic vinegar production. They came here to the countryside, and this was an old rural burg. This was once the house of the old owner. The age rooms were once a stable with all the cows inside and animals, and came here, restored and modernized everything. Yeah, just so you know that we've been paying taxes for 400 years. Okay, let's move on. This is the room of the journey. And since nobody out of Modena, out of Italy, knew about the existence of balsamic vinegar, Giuseppe Giusti started to travel all around the world to the several fairs and international exhibitions. And on the map you can see a few examples. He went to Anvers, Brussels, Vienna, twice to Paris, including year 1889, the year of the inauguration of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, of the Expo. And to Paris that year he traveled with this cask you see behind you. This one, the so-called A3 cask. A3 because it's part of that batch. If you take a look, they're all numbered. A1, A2, A4, this is number A3. Still full of balsamic vinegar today. And this is the most important batch that we have. To have it, we selected all the most important casks from all the different epochs. You can take a look at the years of construction. It's not that specific, but just to give you an idea, 1800, 1800 again, 1700, and so on. And we put them all together to have this batch. They might have different shapes. This one, for example, is like longer, has a different shape because it was once broken, and we built a second one around it to protect as much as possible the original wood. It's two barrels, one inside the other. And yeah, you might find also sometimes these plugs, especially if it's too hot, sometimes we might cover them, or also half of the hole to avoid too much evaporation at the same time. But they usually have to breathe, and this is the most important one. So we can move on. This is the king's room. And during those fairs mentioned before, we were awarded a few medals and prizes and diplomas that you can see on the wall, by the way. And the medals are collected in here. 14 gold medals, silver, bronze as well, because it was something innovative at the time. And also the Royal House of Savoy emblem, white cross and red background. Because when Italy was still a monarchy, 1929, the last king of Italy, Vittorio Emanuele III, asked us to be the official producer of balsamic vinegar for the Royal House of Savoy. And for this reason, we decided to keep both the 14 gold medals and the emblem in our labels, which have never been changed. The labels are still the same. They were designed at the beginning of the 20th century, and since then, pretty much the same. Part of the identity of the family. Just to give you an idea, on the table you find an example of an old bottle. Of course, today the size is different, but the labels are still like that. Liberty style, floral decors, and 14 gold medals designed down here. I will show you the evolution of the bottle in the next room, by the way. And one last detail that I'm not sure you've noticed, these two pigs which represent the origins of the family. Because again, they were butchers. And by the way, you find all the family photos and the photos of the store in the next room. I would say, since this room is quite small, you can take your time to look around. I will give you a few minutes, take your time, you will find the photos of the barrels, the photos of the store. On the opposite side, you have all the letters and orders, wall of memories. I will wait for you in the next room, but take your time.
Okay.
And this is the room of identity. So far we've talked about DOP balsamic, batches, transfer, grape juice and ingredients, and the bottles have the shape of a small ampoule. Now let's focus on the other quality, which is IGP. And this is an example of an IGP bottle. Let's take a look at the shape. This shape is called the champagnotta, small champagne bottle, because when we started to sell our products, balsamic vinegar bottles weren't available, didn't even exist. And we used the only bottles that we had, which were Lambrusco bottles, wine bottles. You can see the evolution on the wall. So at the very beginning, they were too big, too expensive. We just need a few drops of it and it lasts forever, so they were not convenient. We decided then to gradually reduce the size, keeping the same shape, till today, which is 250 ml. Then we also have the smaller size, which is the 100 ml version of the Champagnettina. And let's take a look at the shape, the labels. We said the labels have never been changed. And if you compare them, you can see that nothing has changed. You can see here, what do we see? 14 gold medals won in the past. The Royal House of Savoy emblem. Down here, the pharmacy symbol. Have you ever wondered why it's called balsamic vinegar? The word balsamic, the expression.
No.
Because it was once considered as a natural remedy for all diseases, and it was sold in pharmacies for tuberculosis, hair care, digestive, blood pressure, for this reason, because balsamo in Italian means balm. So lotion, cream that somehow has benefits. Pavarotti, the opera singer who was born in Modena, said that before his concerts, as a tradition, used to take a few drops of balsamic to clear the throat for the voice. Like, I tried, but I don't have the same voice as Pavarotti, by the way, but he used to say that. Now, this collection of IGP, we have 5 recipes, and we use a system of medals, from 1 medal up to 5 gold medals. You see them here. The more medals it has, the older it is. So 1 and 2 will be still liquid, sharp for salads. Or you can cook with, I mean, it's quite versatile. 3, 4, 5, sweeter, thicker, more aromatic. We will taste everything later, so don't worry. This is number 2. Okay, so I think it's time to take a look at the barrels.
Okay.
Let's move to the aging rooms. This way. Please.
우리 거기 소유하고 있었던.
Okay, so these are our aging rooms, historical aging rooms. So we also have other facilities. These are the historical ones. One at the end of the street, like 300 meters from here, on the left side, you have basically everything left. So warehouse, where we bought IGP, offices, production bigger than this one, and then another Ase타이아 with more than 2,000 barrels inside, and also another building which is a bigger warehouse. These are the historical ones. And as you see, a rooftop not insulated, so it's super hot in summer and cold in winter. Down here, you don't have the batches. If you remember, all the batches are upstairs, and we will also visit the attic, which is even more impressive. Down here, you find the single barrels. So, IGP collection, 1 medal, 2, 3, and 4. Number 5 is the only exception. Number 5 is a sort of hybrid, because it's classified as IGP since it has wine vinegar inside, but it's the only one that ages in batches as DOP. So it's 2 separate worlds. Let's say if we had to choose maybe the most similar to DOP, 5 medals is the one. Anyway, different woods. In this case, the most common ones are oak and chestnut, and different sizes of barrels. I don't know if you can see them from here, but on this side, you find the so-called Gran Tonneau, so barrels with more than 6,000 liters of our 1 and 2 medals, which are the youngest ones. And 1 and 2 are so sharp and liquid because they're young, but also because there's a higher percentage of wine vinegar. Then 3, 4, 5 have all more juice of grapes. And 3 and 4 medals are inside these barriques. So this side, that side, on the back, and inside this room. By the way, you can also take a look here inside. You will find other barriques. But again, even if we use single barrels, it's hard to define the years because it's not like here we have 3 metals, here we have 4. It's actually, I mean, everything is actually blended. Let's say we extract 15 liters from here, 45 from here, which is probably older, and we blend them together at the end. That's why we call them recipes. I mean, the metals are just a code to indicate that 1 is the youngest, 5 is the oldest, but they don't indicate the years. And again, the metals is a code decided by us. Maybe other companies might use stars, points, I don't know. And affinato and extra vecchio instead are the same for every producer. Since we're here, let me show you a few examples of Antinori barrels. I don't know if you know Antinori. Antinori is a famous Chianti Classico producer in Tuscany. And we bought them a few decades ago because when we want to increase our production, if possible, we tend not to buy new casks. Maybe we acquire them already used from privates, wine companies, because for wine you should change them every couple of years. In our case, the older they are, the better it is, because they are already rich of aromas. So it's also a way to recycle them, I would say. Yeah, here you find out the barriques of 3 and 4 metals.
여기가 이제 3개, 4개입니다. 다 섞어서 만든대.
Okay, so let's go upstairs. Just Okay, please just mind the step.
여기가 진짜
여기가 이제 4, 5 메달.
진짜 그치.
And this is our attic. So here you find only batches. 5 barrels together, 4 together, 7, 7 again. And up here we have our DOP collection. So affinato 12 years, extra vecchio minimum 25, 5 metals, and a few private reserves, limited collection reserves. Up there, for example, you find 2 reserves, which are the 50 reserve and 100 reserve. Let me just close the door, sorry. So this side, let me just take off my coat. We will taste everything in
이게 이제
Okay,
상용품이 아닌 거지.
these are the
이런
products
거겠지.
we're going to taste. You can grab a spoon for the tasting. The best way to taste balsamic vinegar is in purest form. And how does it work? I will pour a few drops of both balsamics and dressings on your spoon. We will talk about the differences later. To have a better experience, I could suggest, so you can, of course, put the spoon in your mouth, rotate it upside down, and press it on the center of your tongue to activate all the taste buds. It's quite long lasting, but by doing so it remains even longer in your mouth. And since our palate is clean, let's start with the 2 traditionals, which are the 2 ampoules that you see over there.
Okay.
Affinato and extra vecchio. So these are the 2 DOP versions. We see the dropper already included, so something that you please use by drops. The shape of the bottle, designed by Giugiaro, and this is the DOP logo, red and yellow. Down here, the number of the seal. A stands for affinato and E stands for extra vecchio. Just the color is different. The Burgundy for every producer will always be affinato and gold extra vecchio. Let's start with this one, minimum 12 years, which was the one Pavarotti used. So you might, if you want to sing like Pavarotti, this is the right one.
먹는 방법.
이렇게 넣고 돌려서 혀에 꾹 눌러. 돌려 아니.
Yeah, like that. Quite explosive. And fruity in my opinion. You might perceive cherry notes, plum marmalade, red fruits as well. Imagine it on desserts like cheesecake, panna cotta, mascarpone, Greek yogurt, fresh and filled pasta like tortelli, ravioli, Parmesan cream tortellini here in Modena, or also London as a digestive without any kind of food. And this, that was affinato. Now, extra vecchio, same process, batches in the attic, but minimum 25 years. And this is woodier. You might perceive the woods, you might perceive ginger, tobacco. You might even have the perception of losing acidity, on the contrary of the previous one, which was more explosive. this is smoother, it remains even longer in your mouth. Same pairings. Also on dark chocolate or red meat, tagliata, seasoned cheese like Parmigiano. One of the most common pairings is strawberries and balsamic vinegar on top.
Yeah.
And these are the two traditionals. Let's add now one more ingredient. Let's add wine vinegar. And if we combine the two, we're going into these 5 varieties of IGP with the medals. As you might remember, 1 medal, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the labels. Again, the more medals it has, the older it is. Let's start with something in the middle. Let's start with number 3 because it's usually well appreciated. This is probably the most versatile of the collection and usually well appreciated, yeah, sure. Fruity. We use a different kind of must in this case, made with raisins. So this is probably one of the sweetest of the entire collection. And imagine it on caprese salad, soft cheese like mozzarella, burrata, stracciatella, ice cream. There's a good gelateria in Modena city center called Bloom, where you can have your ice cream and ask for balsamic vinegar on top.
Okay.
Now,
가봐야 돼.
4 medals. Number 4 is the sweetest and thickest of the collection. You find the IGP logo on the back, by the way, blue and yellow. But this one has a different kind of sweetness. It's sort of honey and smoky aftertaste. And it's good on seasoned cheese. I use this one at home on my avocado toast. Like avocado, salmon, 4 medals on top. Pumpkin-based meals. Also good on gnocchi or substitute of teriyaki sauce, barbecue sauce.
여기서부터 달라진 스위트.
Now, number 5. Number 5 is the oldest of the collection, the most aromatic one. Some bars also use it as an ingredient to make cocktails. Or one of my colleagues uses it on seafood, like octopus, potatoes, 5 medals on top. Desserts, again, pasta, risotto, pumpkin risotto, gnocchi, etc. And these are the classics. We still haven't mentioned that we have a couple of aromatized versions. I don't know if you're truffle lovers. Do you like truffle?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot.
Perfect. So these are 2 6-month infusions
이거는
of
가양된.
raspberry juice and dehydrated black truffle in the cask with our 3 medals, which is already aging in the meantime for the last 6 months of age. So since this is the basis, texture will be the same, quite
So you
creamy.
put the mushroom into the
In the barrel.
barrel.
Yeah. Let's start with the raspberry because it's more delicate and keep the truffle at the end. This is for chocolate cake or fat meat like pork, lamb, turkey. Now, truffle, which is one of my favorites. Also for eggs, scrambled eggs, omelettes, pumpkin-based meals, steak, polenta, cooked mushrooms.
이건
트러플.
Now we're almost at the end. This is one of the last ones, and this is white dressing, sweet and sour white dressing. It's not balsamic, it's not wine vinegar. Consider that we said in order to have balsamic vinegar, we have to cook the grape juice, and then it gets darker because the sugar caramelizes. And in this case, we didn't cook it. It's a blend of aged wine vinegar and fresh grape juice of white grapes. And we call it agrodolce bianco, sweet and sour white dressing. Don't be scared by the color because I know that it looks like pure wine vinegar, but it's not as sharp as it might look like. And we suggested it for fish, marinades, substitute of lemon juice, so raw vegetables, fruit salad, you can cook with, you can fry with, and this is the white.
It's almost juice.
Yeah, let's conclude. Let's conclude at the end with something again that is not balsamic vinegar, because based on the white we have 5 aromatized versions with pomegranate, apple, figs, raspberry, and this is with ginger. So I would like you to taste the ginger one because it's something super special that you can use for fish or like cocktails, gourmet salads, and the basis is the white. The ingredients are the same, but without the cooking process and the aging process, and this is super special. Okay, and with our ginger, we have concluded our tasting and visit. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
For
Thank you
visiting
for
us.
It's excellent. Yeah, you are
Thank you.
excellent in
Thank
explaining
you.
everything.
It's been a real pleasure. Then if you want to take something else or if you have any other questions, we're here, and me and my colleagues too. Let me just introduce the last couple of products that we have, which are chocolates based on 3 metals. Inside you find the cream based on 3 metals and milk chocolate covered in dark chocolate on the outside. Then the big bottle over there is our vermouth, which is a selection of red wines, 19 herbs, and it ages in our barrels. The ones contain balsamic vinegar. And yeah, thank you again. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
다른 게 있는데 그게 한줄.
다른 게? 다른 게?
주스티 푸드도 이탈리아에 많은데 해외에 딱 하나 있대.
아, 그게 한국이라고?
한국.
어떻게 오셨어?